I want to dig into what you were describing about your upbringing and this unique position that you've gotten to where you don't feel that you covet money, but you see its power and the use that it has in furthering some opportunities for you. How did you develop that? How do you distinguish between luck and skill? How do you end up in that position?
So my parents craved money, meaning they needed it because my dad was unemployed for long stretches of time. My mom was a sole breadwinner. She was a housekeeper, then she was a nurse's aide. And I would just see how she grinded. We didn't have a car for a long time. She takes the bus. We all take the bus. When I got my first job, it was at Burger King. I take the money, and I'd have to give it to my parents, and we would buy bus passes. And, I remember telling some of my friends, I went to a very good high school, kind of like the rich high school, not the high school I should have gone to. I was able to go to this different high school. And I would remember I would tell them hey, this is I would be so ashamed that I worked at Burger King. They would sometimes come by, and I would just be like, oh, fuck. And then at some point, it was like this release moment where I was like, this is my life. I can't do anything about it. This is what it is right now. And I kind of had a sense that I could figure some stuff out later, but I didn't really know. And so I just accepted it. And then the minute I accepted it, I wasn't ashamed anymore. And then when I wasn't ashamed, I could start to actually be inside my head what really matters. So then what happened was there was these massive racial riots in Los Angeles. And not as if the fucking American government did anything about it, but the Canadian government was like, shit, let's get all these black and brown kids jobs. Because we don't want the Rodney King riots in Toronto and Ottawa and parts of Ontario. And so I was able to take all of my dad's rejection letters, call every single one, and one of them gave me a job. And I worked at this well-known telecommunications startup in Ottawa. Ottawa had a really burgeoning tech scene at the time. And I worked in this organization that was run by this really iconic guy, Terry Matthews. And he was a billionaire. And I was like, what the fuck is that word? I didn't even know fucking thousandaire. I was like, what is a billionaire? And this guy was risk on. And he was just so dynamic in the businesses he had started and how he viewed his place in the world. And I was enthralled. I was 9 degrees away from him. But the cult of personality around him in that business, the lore, when it trickles down to you, was not about, his conspicuous consumption or anything else. It was about, okay, we're launching this frame relay switch. Now we're going to buy this company. Okay, we're going to pivot the entire business to ATM. And you were just like, it was an amazing time. And so I took the bus to Newbridge. Complete luck that the controller of Newbridge would go from his nice neighborhood through this shitty neighborhood to get on the highway. And so he would see this guy standing by the bus, and eventually he saw me inside the office, and one day he stopped. He's like, you want to ride? You work at Newbridge? I'm like, yeah. And this guy, Sam Legg. So in the car, he was in the front seat, beside Terry, and he was able to tell me how this guy thought about this. I was like, because I would read it in the paper, and I'd be like, why is he doing this? So it just completely rewired what money was. For Terry Matthews, money was an instrument of change, right? He had a market cap. He's like, wow, that's $8 billion of change, $10 billion of change, $15 billion of change. Versus there was another guy building a company at the time. His name was Michael Copeland, who ran a company called Corel, also a billionaire. And he was the exact opposite. Had a messy divorce, married some trophy wife. He took this obscene, shiny glass from his building and covered his house in it. And so you had this dichotomy of 2 different characters at that time in the 90s building really interesting businesses. Corel, which was a reasonable business, Newbridge, which was a reasonable business. They were both very successful, but they manifested money so totally differently. And I was like, I want to be this guy. I want to be this mega compounder swashbuckling around trying to do really cool shit in the world. How do I do that? And Sam helped me because it was just like, you could understand from him what Terry cared about. And then for me, I just copied. I mean, a lot of my life, quite honestly, is just copying things that I see. There's not a lot of original thought here. It truly is not. I mean, we can all pretend we're all fucking geniuses. Honestly, be good copiers. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the best thing in the world. Like, be around high-functioning, high-quality people and just copy the shit that they do. Observe the shit that's, kind of crappy, and then don't do that stuff. It's not a fucking complicated formula.
When have you used that best?
No, all the time. I mean, look, now, it's funny. Like, it's like, you have a surface area of ways to spend your time now, or I do. And, I'm in this midst now where we're really scaling up what we're doing as a business. And I meet these people that to me are so iconic that they were sort of like arm's length people that are now sitting face to face, and they treat me like a quasi-peer. I wouldn't say a peer, but quasi-peer. But what I see is, I see some amazing stuff, and I see some utter dysfunction in some of the richest, most important people in the world. And I have to decide, how am I going to act? What am I going to embody? What am I copying? What am I not copying? And so I get a chance to now refine my decision-making and discipline. And that's how it plays out. I don't know if I answered your question.